It is time to go to the range. Gavin Gear here from ultimatereloader.com and makingwithmetal.com. I just finished this Remington 700 custom 224 Valkyrie bolt-action rifle build. I'm going to follow that up with an AR-15 build so that we can compare the two side by side. Now that I'm done with the rifle build, it's time to break in the barrel. And I consulted with the guys at Benchmark Barrels, whose barrel steel I'm using here. Their suggestion was to shoot 3 shots, cleaning after each shot, and then to shoot 3 to 5 shot groups, cleaning after each of those groups. So I started with a bore sight, took out the bolt, looked down the bore, and then looked between the scope and the bore, making scope adjustments until the two agreed. That'll usually get me onto an 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper. So these were the first 3 shots. I got to the point where I'm just about touching this spot and cleaned after each of those shots, and now it's time to start shooting. I chose 5 shot groups. And so I shot the first 5 shot group 1.2 inches, and then the second 5 shot group was 0.464 inches. Third group was 0.776 inches. And then for groups 4 and 5, I set up 2 cameras, one at the target and one at the firing line. And I was starting to take my time a little bit more here and really work on my rifle skills and just take my time to let things unfold naturally. I'll actually link to the full unedited video. In the video description here, there's an unlisted video in case you want to watch the full 5-minute sequence of me shooting these groups. But group 4 was 0.489 inches and group 5 was 0.377 inches. So what does this tell me? It tells me that the rifle is going to have great accuracy potential, and this is really before any load development. Let me talk really quick about the load I used. So I'm using brand new Starline brass, Federal 205 primers, 70 grain Nosler RDF, those are the reduced drag factor bullets that I used in the 22 Nosler story with the PRS matches, and 25.5 grains of Vargut. I tried 25 grains and 25.5. I got 2,947 feet per second. The Hodgdon data goes up to 25.8 grains, and they're topping out at 3,033 feet per second. So we're just under that charge weight, and we're under in velocity. This was just some quick data that I gathered to see roughly where we're going to be. We got a lot more testing coming up, but I wanted to start with a bullet in the middle of the weight range for 224 Valkyrie. Something that I've seen good results in another rifle with the same type of load in the same magnitude that I know is going to be a real good stable performer, just to get shots down the bore and to get some groups, get the scope sighted in, all of that. And the results were great. You know, a 1/3 of an inch group is really a great result. And I think with more load development and more testing and more rifle practice, I think that is going to continue to at least be consistent, if not go down slightly. So of course, I'm going to go up to the higher BC bullets that are longer and heavier. And that's where the 1 in 7 twist rate will be an interesting factor to look at. So let's take a look at the loading process. This is just a very simple, brand new case loading process. We don't have to size, but there's a few specific considerations. So Starline recommends that you use an expander ball to put an initial size on the case neck and to uniform it. You know, sometimes you get a little bit of dings and dents in transit. So I'm using an RCBS die set that I've got. This is the small base taper crimp die set, and I'm using this die because the expander ball is lower, so that makes it easier to go ahead and just to do the neck expansion without getting into the shoulder region. Okay, so this is going to go really fast. We're using the Forster coax. This press really came to the rescue, I'll have to say, because I didn't have any priming tool shell holders. I was going to use the Lee off-press priming tool, and I discovered it takes a 21 shell holder, and I did not have that on hand. But the Forster has the adjustable priming setup, and then you've got the large and small universal shell holder setup. So that actually is a really nice feature when you're switching to different calibers. Okay, so we've got 10 cases. We've used the expander ball to just uniform those case necks. And now we can move over to priming. And here we just take a primer each time, put it into the cup, and then lower the case onto that priming punch. And yeah, these fingers are all adjustable, so we don't have to have any specific shell holders or parts. There's just small and large priming punches that both are included with the coax. And what I like to do is choke up on the handle, if you will, and because there's plenty of leverage here on the press. Surprisingly, you can still feel the primer seating really, really well. So I like this leverage. I like the fact that I can get them nice and flush, and I can feel when they've bottomed out against the priming punch. So it goes pretty quick. It's universal. It's not quite as fast as a priming tool where you've got self-feeding primers, but I love the fact that this is included with the press, and it just makes it easy to do that kind of priming. The Hornady Lock and Load bench powder measure is working great with Varget. I'm seeing a total variation of about 0.1 grain. And for this fire forming, that's going to be absolutely adequate. When we do our 10-shot load development and when we do other load development and precision loading processes, we may want to get more exacting than that. But the hope is that once we find a stable node for pressure fluctuation, we can just use this measure or even a progressive for dispensing powder and get really good results. It all depends on our goals. Okay, so we're done with that. Time to seat bullets. Okay, so for bullet seating, I'm using the Ultra Micrometer seater die from Forster. And I really like these dies because they have the micrometer. They have the sliding collar, which just yields better bullet alignment, and with the micrometer, we can definitely get things dialed in really quickly. So we just take one of our cases, place a bullet on the top, and go ahead and seat our cartridge. Now, I will note also, Ellie Wilson has come out with their 224 Valkyrie case gauges. And this is always a good idea, regardless of whether we're loading new ammo or reloading with sizing. We want to make sure that we're within the proper spec. So we're above the bottom step, we're below the top step. We are now good to go. So we can continue with the seating of bullets. And I just loaded these to the factory cartridge overall length. Again, we're fire forming brass, we're breaking in the barrel, and we're hopefully getting some reasonable results and some data from the chronograph in the process. But really, the focus is just on getting some initial results and getting things ready for the work that's to come. And a lot of that is the load development, whether it be our 10-shot load development or we're actually working on shooting optimal charge weight groups. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do to zero in on that perfect load for what it is that we want to do, whether it be hunting or target shooting. We want to get into a stable node with good accuracy, get the velocity data from our chronograph so that we can calculate dope and be on target at a variety of distances. So there you go. We loaded 10 rounds of the same ammunition I used to break in the barrel on my custom 224 Valkyrie rifle. And my process was just really simple. After the first few shots were out of the way, I would shoot a group of 5, I would run the wet patch down, and then I would come down here to the Ultimate Reloader lab and studio, load some more ammunition, go back up, and finish with the dry patches. This lets the barrel cool down, and it lets the solvent do its work while we're breaking in the barrel. We want to monitor how those patches are coming out and just keep an eye on how much copper fouling that we're getting. And again, great results. I've shot a little bit more of this ammunition, and it's been just, performing really, really well. So what's next? We got a lot more coming up. We're going to be working up to heavier bullets. We got the 90 grain Sierra Match Kings. We got the 95 grain Sierra Match Kings. Will they stabilize in my 1 in 7 barrel? Who knows? It might depend on how close it is to 1 in 7. What if it's 1 in 6.9? That might be the edge that we're going to need. We got 88 grain Hornady ELD match bullets and a lot more coming up. Plus, we got all the AR-15 action. So make sure you're subscribed to GavinToobe. Click on the little bell to make sure you get notifications. And then if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.